Hey guys, it's Bro You Whack, and I got to play Overwatch 2 early, which means that I got to play the version of every single hero that's gonna be launching on October 4th. So what I wanted to do was to showcase every major change that is happening to every single hero. Every single hero is at least getting one single change when Overwatch 2 launches, which is why I wanted to make a consolidated list talking about all the major changes, whether it's their damage, their abilities, their health, or whatever new passive that they might have gotten. So to help you out, I'll include timestamps of all the heroes so that you can easily skip to the hero that you're wondering, well, what changed about them. First, let's talk about the universal tank change, where they receive less knockback from like Lucio's boop or Brigitte's whip. Along with that, they also give less ultimate charge to people that do damage on them. I think about 30%. Now this is going to go relatively quickly. I won't touch on every minute detail about D.va, but her damage is staying roughly the same. She is getting a lower decrease penalty whenever she's moving and firing at the same time, but the biggest change here is that she's going to get a lot more defense matrix juice because she is having to play the off tank and the main tank in Overwatch 2. That also means that the regeneration is going to be a little bit slower because she has more DM juice, but she's also going to get a 50 damage knockback every single time she hits an enemy with her flight. And as always, you will still be able to squish your enemies with your mech. Doomfist is iconically a tank now. We've known this for quite a long time, but that means that two parts about him are going to be doing less damage. His hand cannon is one of them, but also his Doomfist punch that you will see later. He no longer has an uppercut that's now replaced by his power block ability. He does still have his seismic slam that has changed a little bit, where it does less CC but a little bit more damage, and his ult still functions the same way, but he does a lot more damage in the center of his ultimate. Orisa also got some iconic changes where she just got a whole new primary from her fire, replacing her giant 150 clip, but she also got new abilities, with Halt getting replaced by the javelin throw and her shield getting replaced by the javelin spin. She still has her fortify ability, but no longer does it give you crit damage, allowing Orisa to not be such a big giant meat shield. And like I mentioned before, she does have a new primary from a fire, but instead of there being ammo, you now have this overheat function. And to end things off, she has a new ultimate replacing her bongos, where her javelin spins in the air and she pulls enemies close to her, and the longest she's spinning that javelin, the more power she charges and slams in the ground. Reinhardt, being the iconic main tank, is now having to also replace the off tank, and while his damage is still roughly the same as terms of functionality, he does have two fire strikes to help him out, and his pin, while it still is the same, you're now able to steer it a little bit more easier. Like, you can steer it way more to the right or to the left. His shield has decreased in hit numbers, however, because again, he's not supposed to be just the main and off tank, but his ultimate still is the same. You still are able to slam someone with your hammer, and an additional change that you can now cancel your charge as Reinhardt. Roadhog got some simple changes. He's still the greedy DPS tank that we've all known and loved. However, he does have a little bit more health, which is crucial because he's always taking a lot of damage. But his self-healing ability now grants him like 50 more health points, which is, again, not as big in the grand scheme of things. But if you're taking a lot of damage, hey, that 50 points will still come in handy. However, one cool addition to his ultimate is that now you can cancel or stop using your ultimate if you see fit. Sigma admittedly got some minute changes. I mean, he got an additional 100 hit points to his shield. His rock does 100 total damage now. However, it's his berry that has the biggest change, where now the regeneration rate is a lot slower than it was beforehand. But his ultimate, his damage, it's all still the same. Hey. Winston got some very fun changes that continues to get better. So his normal damage is still the same, however he now has a new secondary ability that I call his Chidori ability, where you charge up your electricity and you send a ball of energy at a range distance, which is really cool. His berry is still the same. It went up and down in the beta. His leap is still the same. His ultimate is still the same. Really, the only thing that has changed is his armor getting increased by 50 and getting a new secondary fire. But I mean, Winston's never been one to really get a lot of nerfs and buffs to begin with, so it's no surprise there. Hammond not only having the cutest highlight intro, but some really good changes that only continues to make him better. Not only did he get an increase to his health, but he also got more adaptive shield radius, meaning that he's going to capture a lot more targets to give him a lot more temporary shield. But on top of that, the temporary shield that he does get is 100 hit points per target, meaning that you're going to be able to feed a lot more as Hammond, and you also get a little bit more knockback damage every single time you slam into an enemy. The final original tank is Zarya. She iconically has 2 new bubbles at her disposal that she can use either both on herself, both on her teammates, or share with the community and herself. Give it to her teammate and herself. She also got an increase to her health and her shield, which is pretty common for most of the tanks because, well, they're the only tank on the field and they're having to replace both the main tank and the off tank depending on what they were in Overwatch 1. However, another little small detail that you don't really notice in this experimental comparison is the fact that her energy degeneration is lowered in Overwatch 2. That's about it for Zarya. But moving on to DPS changes, the universal new passive for DPS heroes is the fact that anytime you get a kill, whether it's a final blow or an assist, you get a 25% speed increase to your reload and your movement speed for 2.5 seconds. And if you reach the 30% threshold for your ultimate and you switch on to a different DPS hero, you keep at minimum 30%. But now for individual DPS heroes, there's not going to be as much changes in comparison to tank heroes because, again, they're having to fit the 5v5 format where DPS heroes, well, they can easily fit 5v5, 6v6, 3v3, whatever the case may be. So in the case of Ashe, not a lot changed here with the exception of Bob's health now decreasing by 200 points. He now only has 1,000 hit points. Poor Bob, man. It was supposed to be Ashe, not you, baby, not you. Forget what I said about DPS heroes not getting massive reworks, because Bastion is basically a whole new hero. He has a new primary form of fire where it shoots a little bit slower but does a teeny bit more damage, and I'm also going to be showing the DPS buff anytime you get a kill with the reload speed later on. But here is Bastion's new turret form. It's a temporary ability where beforehand you just switch between recon and turret form. His healing ability got replaced by a grenade. It can do AoE damage, and there's the reload speed that I talked about earlier beforehand. And he also has a new ultimate, Artillery Strike. No longer is it his actual tank form. He now transforms into a Mortar Strike. Good old Cole Cassidy, the most simple hero in Overwatch. So the only damage change here is to his fire rate for his secondary fire, but the other notable change is his brand new grenade. No longer is it a flashbang, but a magnet grenade that does seek out enemies. And there you're also going to see the reload buff that every DPS hero has. And his Deadeye charge is a little bit faster, but shoots a little slower in comparison to Overwatch 1. Welco's really no fun. The only big change here is that she gets less damage on her focus beam, and I guess in a way like her ultimate also gets nerfed because, well, if you don't know, the tank passive, the universal tank passive, is that they give 30% less damage to your ultimate, and Echo's ultimate is all dependent on just getting an ultimate. So I guess in a way she did get passively nerfed, and I guess passively buffed also because, well, DPS has a universal buff, but you're gonna see here that she does charge her ultimate like a lot slower. The same exact damage that I would get on the Roadhog wouldn't grant me an ultimate instantly. I looked through all the hero changes and patch notes to try to find a Genji change, but I think he's legit the only hero that has not received a change throughout the whole entire Overwatch 2 beta ever since Overwatch 1 last updated. His damage is the same, ultimate is still the same. The only thing that he's getting is the new universal DPS passive where every single time he gets a kill, he reloads faster, which is very big for him because he's all about chaining kills. So if you're good with Genji, you're gonna have a fun time in Overwatch 2 because, well, he's not changing. His brother, on the other hand, oh boy, is he getting the biggest nerf that I've ever seen. His storm arrow damage is getting reduced by 5. That's the only change he's gotten. Listen, I know DPS heroes don't need to change, but come on, I've been playing this game for so long. You can throw me a bone by just, I don't know, maybe deleting Hanzo to make the game a little bit different. No, they just reduce the storm arrow, not even the regular damage. I'm all stuttering because I'm just so mad and... So Junkrat's an interesting case. So no major changes to his damage or his C4 and anything, but it's his steel trap that got the most change. Not only does it get thrown farther, but at one point it only slowed the enemy. It didn't stop them, but then they reverted it because they realized, oh wait, Junkrat's not that good of a hero. He needs to at least have this sort of like ability to be able to get easier kills. And even then, he's still not all that great. Mei was one of the first heroes to get a change in Overwatch 2. When Overwatch 2 was originally announced, we all knew that she no longer was going to be able to freeze enemies. She does do a little bit more damage for her primary form of fire to compensate for that, but her secondary is still the same. Her ice wall is getting nerfed. It has less health and it also has less range. Also, her ice block no longer can help protect her from Sigma's ultimate. Really, just Mei is not doing good in Overwatch 2, and it's making me really sad because this is my girl. The only buff that she's getting is the universal DPS buff. At least she's still able to freeze people, but even that, man, even that. I didn't see any notable changes for Pharah other than the fact that her concussion blast now does 30 damage upon impact. Her damage is still relatively the same. She does reload a little bit faster, not including the new DPS change. That's after like it runs out of ammo. So I mean, for Pharah mains, if you have a Mercy duo, you and her or you and them are still going to be able to rock the most toxic pharmacy combo of all time in Overwatch 2 because, well, Pharah's not getting touched. And I think that's a good thing because, well, when people think of Pharah, they often think of pharmacy, but they don't think of the individual hero, and it's hard to balance an individual hero when the hero is so commonly played with another hero, in this case Mercy. So I don't know what they could change, but I think just leaving Pharah alone is probably for the best. Reaper, his damage got lower, but his spread increased. So basically, he got really nerfed in a game that doesn't have a lot of tanks to begin with. Yeah, Reaper's not going to be that hot in Overwatch 2. Like, he already wasn't so great in Overwatch 1, but to nerf him this much when tanks aren't going to be that prevalent, it just like, makes my head scratch. It makes my head scratch. I'm so confused by Soldier's changes. Like, they're both good and bad. So the bad change is that his damage and his sprint speed got significantly decreased. However, not only do you have like the DPS universal buff, which I'm showcasing here, but your ultimate allows you to get critical damage now. And there's also no fall off damage, meaning that you can just be a sniper that's always hitting your shots. I don't really know if this is a good thing or a bad thing for Soldier 76. I mean, either way, if you're good with Soldier, you're gonna be good in Overwatch 2 because if you have good aim, you're just gonna play her. Here's another hero's changes that confuse me whether they're good or bad. So her damage and her spread got lowered. However, she's also able to hack while she's stealth, which is good because that means you can do a lot more hacking because you're not having to be caught with your pants down. But whenever you hack an enemy, you get a 40% damage increase. So, and you can't shoot while you're in stealth mode. So it's either you gotta be a hacky Sombra or a DPS Sombra. And when it comes to hacking an enemy, well, they're only locked out for 1 second. So it's like, it's good changes, but also bad changes. Like, they're trying to make her a better hacker and a DPS, but they're kind of doing neither at the same time. But someone that is getting good changes, but is fortunately not good themselves, is Symmetra. But you want to know what is the best change in this whole entire Overwatch 2 update is Symmetra's UI. This gun is absolutely stunning, along with her secondary fire. But besides her primary gun having way more ammo, meaning that you can just beam people down for days, your secondary fire is both good and bad. Like, it's no longer a 2-shot kill, but it charges faster and it shoots faster. So I guess whichever one you prefer. Like, if you're accurate, or if you're inaccurate, actually, I guess this helps you, but if you're accurate, then you don't like this change. And the sentries, they move a little bit faster as well. Like, Symmetra continuously gets like minute, small, better buffs, but again, just Symmetra doesn't fit the Overwatch format all that well, which is why she struggles. Even her teleporter is getting a little bit better, where you can deploy a lot faster, meaning that you can send in sentry bombs. So like, everything is working in Symmetra's favor, just except for Symmetra. She even gets the universal DPS buff. But even that, like, we'll just have to see in Overwatch 2 if she gets better, but I don't know, man. Torbjorn's changes are kind of like, they're good, they're just kind of but the fire recovery rate is slightly faster. Ooh, and I guess because you do have the universal DPS buff, you reload faster too, and you also have your molten core. Like Torbjorn is what Symmetra wishes she could be, where Torbjorn was terrible at the beginning of Overwatch 1, but slowly but surely, he's gotten better by new buffs, like with his turret or this new ability, and him being able to walk faster. But still, he's not the best, but he can be good in the right hands. The fact that the turret shoots for you is a huge plus too. Like, if only Symmetra's sentries could just fire beams for you, I think then that would make her an even better hero. Tracer, she's kind of boring. Her damage decreased very, very, very slightly, but because she just pumps out so much damage, it's very insignificant. Like, her blinks, her recall is still the same. Her ultimate is still, I think, roughly the same. In my testing, I was dying in Overwatch 2, but not in Overwatch 1. But Tracer, she's still the same old blinky, nimble girl that we've come to know and love.
Widowmaker's health got increased from 175 to 200. I never understood why they changed it by 25 points and they always moved it back and forth, but everything else literally is the same. And I'm sorry if this is getting boring, just watching secondaries and primary forms of fire and just seeing the differences literally be nothing, but it's just to show you that hey, literally nothing is changing for these heroes unless said or shown otherwise. But the abilities, the ultimate, the grapple, the gun, in the case of Widowmaker is all the same, just with the exception of the health. And that seems to be the case with a lot of DPS heroes. But now we're gonna get into the support heroes. So Ana herself, no big changes here. The only thing is that her sleep dart now has a 50-second cooldown, which I guess is like a big deal because that's her form of protection if you don't count her brand new passive heal that every single support hero has, with the exception of Mercy, where she has a 50% passive heal, because that was just basically Mercy's passive is now given to all the other support heroes, which this is huge for Ana because she has no way to heal herself with the exception of the grenade, but you really never want to waste it. And here is the passive heal that you do get, and you're no longer having to rely on your secondary healer or your grenade. Baptiste is the king of minuscule changes that actually kind of make a huge difference. So his minimum fall off damage got reduced, his regeneration buff now instantly heals 50, but over time gives you an additional 50, which originally I think it was at 100, and I think once again he also has passive healing, but everything else, his immortality field unfortunately is still in the game. I have a strong feeling that that might be going away in Overwatch 2 because people hate immortality field and they're not doing anything about it, but his damage, his heals, his window, everything is still all good and fun. And even his passive, the bouncy boy, is still bouncy. What's a nerf and buff video without a Brigitte nerf? Actually, there's some buffs to Brigitte. So her bash no longer stuns. Actually, that's a nerf. Yeah, her bash no longer stuns, but it does a total of 50 damage, and it also triggers her Inspire passive ability. And it also gives you more knockback too. So, I mean, hey, yes, it doesn't stun, but nobody likes CC in the game, especially for someone like Brigitte. But then again, nobody likes Brigitte because of how much armor she gives, her rally ability, and just the fact that she's very annoying with her stuns. But at least the stun is now going away in Overwatch 2, so we can all rejoice. Lucio's changes are confusing. So his ultimate got increased. That's always a gimme because he always has the most expensive ultimate in the game that can really change the pace of the game. But it's his crossfade self-healing penalty. In the patch notes, it says that it went from 30% to 60%. However, in my testing in Overwatch 2, he heals himself a whole lot faster. Here you see me just testing out the speed to see if anything else changed, but I couldn't really notice anything else. But it's really just the crossfade penalty. If you guys don't know, anytime you're being a Reddit Lucio and you're switching in between songs, you're not able to self-heal yourself as frequently as, say, if you were just to stick on your heal song. And here you can see it in action, and I'm healing myself in Overwatch 2 a whole lot faster than in Overwatch 1. But besides that, his ultimate, his damage, everything is still the good old Lucio fun. Alright, so Mercy, she's gone through so many changes, mainly just to her super jump ability. But before we get into that, her damage, her heal, it still seems like it's the same. However, she does have a now new passive heal, which is 50% heals every single second, which is really good and helpful for Mercy because she's always having to heal rather than do damage. But this is her new Guardian Angel. All you gotta do is whenever you're flying to an enemy, you're now gonna have a new bar that charges how high of a jump you're gonna have, and as soon as you press the crouch button at any point in that flight duration, you're going to send yourself into the sky, but also you can send yourself backwards, side, or frontwards, which is really big for Mercy. Moira at one point had a big change in the form of her necrotic orb that replaced her biotic orb, but now we're just subject to not having fun and getting kills with Moira and just forced to pee on people. So I guess that's something new in Overwatch 2, but her biotic grasp, I guess, does less self-healing, which is pretty big and significant. The fact that you're able to 1v1 so many people as Moira and win because you not only had that self-healing from the biotic grasp, but also the passive healing from the universal support buff, it made her basically unkillable. And her fate also increased by 1 second, but really, I want the necrotic orb to come back. It was a lot of fun. I don't know why. I do know why they got rid of it, but just bring it back, man, or bring it back in some form. Zenyatta's changes his is pretty fun. So he did get a nerf. Anytime he sends a Discord orb to somebody and he loses line of sight after 2 seconds, you do lose the Discord orb instead of 3. But on top of that, you do have the brand new kick ability, which you can just Sparta kick people off of the map, which is really fun for Zenyatta. I know a few people that would literally just were trying to only kick with Zenyatta, and it's a lot harder than it looks because, yeah, while you do like, I think it's 50 damage and you could push people off the map, you're still Zenyatta. You can still get absolutely murked, but besides that, Discord Orb still seems the same, damage still seems the same, healing still seems the same. I just really wanted to test everything out and show it in comparison to, well, the Overwatch 1 version so that we really know, okay, what's going to be changing when Overwatch 2 comes out. Here's the Discord Orb line side change, and then soon up here is the brand new kick, Sparta kick! And that is all the Zenyatta changes, and those are all of the hero changes with the exception of Sojourn and the Junker Queen. And in the case of Sojourn, the railgun rate of fire and ammo got increased. When it comes to the Junker Queen, the command shout just recently got nerfed where the radius did get lowered and the health bonus now gets decayed. And those were all the hero changes coming into Overwatch 2. This was a long video to make and I'm really tired, so I'm gonna go. Thank you guys for watching. More Overwatch and Overwatch 2 videos to come, and bye.